Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling journey through 180 years of history. We're unpacking a topic that touches every single one of us, our personal privacy. But we aren't looking at some sudden dramatic heist of our personal lives in the middle of the night. Oh no, the truth is way more subtle than that. So let me ask you something right off the bat. Would you actually notice if your privacy vanished, just degree by degree? It's a huge question, because privacy loss isn't an overnight event. It's a slow, creeping process. It gets built up through tiny changes in technology, law, and corporate policy, shifting so gently over the decades that most of us barely notice a thing while it's happening. To really wrap our heads around this, think about the classic boiling frog metaphor. You drop a frog into a pot of cool, comfortable water, and it's perfectly happy. Turn up the heat slowly, the frog doesn't even notice the danger. It just gets used to the warmth. By the time that water is actually boiling, it's way too late to jump out. Keep that little guy in mind as we go through this, because it is literally the perfect analogy for our own relationship with personal data. Okay, phase one, the comfortable cool. We're looking at the era before the 1990s. Long before the internet was even a twinkle in anyone's eye, the water in our pot felt absolutely fine. But the machinery for surveillance, that was quietly being built in filing cabinets. It's crazy to think about, but back in 1841, the mercantile agencies started the very first systematic tracking of individual credit, basically the granddaddy of the data broker. Fast forward to 1921, and these archives had spread to 230 cities, tracking millions of ordinary folks. But hey, society pushed back. In 1965, a massive Supreme Court case, Griswold v. Connecticut, actually established a constitutional right to privacy, a real beacon of hope. And by 1974, the Privacy Act stepped in to regulate how the federal government handled our data. At this point, our frog doesn't even know the stove is on. The legal protections felt solid, and everything just seemed totally normal. Moving on to phase two, the water begins to warm. Welcome to the 1990s. So, we hit the 90s and the burner under our pot gets quietly clicked on. The internet is here, and with this digital revolution comes a completely silent revolution in how your data is collected. Right now, our frog is having a blast, splashing around. The digital world is brand new, it's exciting, we're all getting connected, but hidden traps were already being set right beneath the surface. The absolute game changer here was the invention of the browser cookie in 1994 by Netscape. Now, let's strip away the tech jargon for a second. A cookie is literally just a tiny text file sitting on your computer, but its impact? Absolutely massive. For the very first time ever, it allowed websites to remember who you were and actually follow your habits from page to page, reporting all of that back to companies. Suddenly, you're leaving digital footprints everywhere you go. So, how did the world handle this brand new tracking power? Well, it was a massive split. In 1995, the European Union put out its first data protection directive. They saw the writing on the wall and sensed the danger of digital commerce scaling up. But over in the US, American companies largely just brushed those warnings aside. They were way too focused on the rapid expansion of the web to worry about a few privacy rules. To put that Wild West mentality into perspective, check out this number, 17. A landmark study back in 1997 found that out of the top 100 most visited websites on the internet, only 17 even bothered to have a privacy policy. And get this, not a single one of those 17 met basic privacy standards. It was a complete free-for-all with your personal data. Which brings us to phase three, the heat rises, 2001 to 2012. During this decade, the temperature in the pot shoots way up. The tragic events of September 11, 2001 changed the world overnight. And what happened next was a powerful, unprecedented blending of government policy and private sector technology. National security became the driving force behind a massive, incredibly quiet expansion of government surveillance. We're talking huge, imposing frameworks built to gather information, fundamentally reshaping our civil liberties in the process. Just look at the sheer volume of surveillance power that got rubber-stamped here. Just 45 days after 9/11, the Patriot Act gave agencies sweeping new powers to monitor calls and emails, a lot of the time without even needing a warrant. That exact same year, GPS mobile phones hit the market. We literally started carrying tracking devices in our pockets voluntarily. By 2002, the Pentagon pitched something called Total Information Awareness, basically aiming to link your travel, medical, and credit data into one giant database. The public freaked out, so the official program died, but pieces of it definitely survived in the shadows. Then, in 2008, Section 702 allowed the NSA to collect foreign targets' communications, but they quote-unquote incidentally swept up huge amounts of ordinary Americans' data right along with it. Our frog is definitely feeling uncomfortable now, but, well, it stays in the pot. And that leads us right into Phase 4, the boiling point. 2013 to the present day. The frog finally realizes it's hot, but the trap is fully sprung. And honestly, it's too weak to jump out. Let's trace how this modern mass surveillance infrastructure escalated. Step 1, 2013. Edward Snowden leaks classified docs, blowing the lid off programs like Prism and Upstream. These weren't internet conspiracy theories. The government was actually vacuuming up the internet and phone records of millions of people in bulk, no individual warrants required. Step 2, the legal pushback. In 2018, we got a win when the Supreme Court ruled in Carpenter v. U.S. that police actually do need a warrant to grab your long-term phone location history. But, as always, agencies found loopholes. Which brings us to Step 3, just in 2024. The reauthorization of Section 702, known as RESA, expanded surveillance powers so much that it could potentially rope in millions of everyday IT and data center workers to help them snoop. And if you thought government data sweeps were bad, listen to this. In 2021, investigative journalists uncovered the Pegasus Project. They revealed that a completely invisible military-grade spyware was infecting the phones of journalists, activists, and lawyers across more than 45 countries. It is a terrifying reality check. Targeted, zero-click surveillance is a global crisis now. Literally, no device was safe. So here we are, the result: a fully surveilled reality. What's the outcome of this 180-year creeping timeline? Well, the water is boiling. Surveillance isn't just a specialized tool for tracking criminals anymore. It is literally baked into the core infrastructure of modern life. It's in the apps we use to navigate, the screens we stare at all day, the platforms we use to talk to our families. Trying to opt out? It's practically impossible, because doing so basically means opting out of participating in modern society altogether. Think about the smartphone sitting next to you right now. That little device logs your exact physical location every few seconds. Then, that data gets packaged up and sold to data brokers. Sure, they sell it to advertisers so you get creepy, targeted ads, but get this, they also sell it directly to law enforcement agencies. Why? Because buying your data from a broker completely bypasses the pesky requirement of getting a legal warrant from a judge. Your own phone has become a 24/7 unregulated tracking beacon. And the wildest part? They don't even need to read your private text messages to know your deepest secrets. That's the terrifying magic of metadata. Metadata is just the information about your communications. It's who you called, when you called, and for how long. It sounds harmless, right? But with just that information, analysts can map out your entire social circle, predict your daily routines, and figure out your political views, your health struggles, even your financial stress points. All of that without ever reading a single word you wrote. We've come an incredibly long way from 19th century filing cabinets to a world where our daily movements and metadata are just commodities traded on an open global market. Our frog never jumped. Why? Because every single degree of change, a new cookie here, a convenient phone feature there, a new security law over there, it all felt just a little too small to panic over. But the water is at a rolling boil now, and the infrastructure of surveillance surrounds us completely. The only question left is, do we notice in time to actually do something about it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you a new lens to view the digital world around us. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.